Hi everybody, it's Kelly with Sewful Creations, and today's tutorial is going to be on the Marzia Bucket Bag by Kaur Threads. You're going to love this bag, let me tell you, and you're going to make more than one just like I did. This is the one that you're going to see being made in today's tutorial. I just love a classic black and red bag, so I just had to make one. And so I used this faux croc / ostrich from Big Z Fabric, and I just love the way it came together. So what's so good about this bag? So you have it, the construction is very interesting. So you're gonna like that part, okay? And then you have these side pockets. You have a center pocket in the front and the back. These cool faux rolled handles. You have a shoulder strap that you can remove. And on the bottom, we have some purse feet. Okay, the drawstring, you can make it with the hardware on the ends or without. Okay, inside, you have a nice size slip pocket and a zipper pocket with overlay. And this is a drop-in lining, so it fits great, okay? And there's no binding. I know, some people just don't like binding. And no piping. So those are some pluses. But anyway, but there are grommets. And I know that sometimes grommets scare people, but don't let it. There are some, you can get snap-on grommets, you can get screw-in grommets, or there's a tool that I will show you during this video that you can get from Amazon that makes installing grommets like as easy as 1, 2, 3. So there are ways to get around your fear of grommets. So anyway, again, this is the bag I'll be making in today's tutorial. So you will see this one. I also want to show you, so this is the very first one that I made during testing. And I love this color. I mean, I just had to do one and just a solid color. And this one is 2 colors. One color, I tried to show you different variations. So, and then this one, there's also a magnetic snap closure in addition to the drawstring. So there's extra protection there. And I have some bubble wrap in this one. But I used a cotton lining for this one. This one has the red and black one is waterproof canvas. Okay, so this is one of them. I love it. And let me show you what it looks like when it's not cinched up. Okay, so we unsnap it and it opens up. It opens up pretty wide there. So you have that. So this is the very first one. And then I just had to make another one in testing. And I wanted to show it with 3 colors. So we have the black and the cream, and then I have the snake print. And so you see how you can kind of mix things up and do, make them look totally different just with your fabric choices. And again, this one has the waterproof canvas lining, and I just love it. And this one, I did do some edge painting. So there's some edge painting involved if you choose. I did not choose it on a couple of these, but this one I did a little edge painting on my cincher. And so, hey, get the pattern. You're going to love it. It's such a cute bag. I'm telling you, you're not going to be satisfied with just one. So enough said, let's get started on the Marzia Bucket Bag by Kaur Threads. So before we get started making our Marzia Bucket Bag, make sure you follow the prep work instructions on pages 12 to 15. Okay, so it's going to give you information on the interfacing and stabilizer pieces. There's some markings that you need to make that are very important and helpful as you make the bag. So just make sure you do that. Okay, so I've done all my prep work, And so we're going to get started making the drawstring tab. So I've done mine just a little bit different than how it's described in the pattern, but you get the same results. So you have your pattern piece. You can cut 2 of these and then use some double-sided tape or glue to put them together. Or you can do as I've done, and I cut 1 from the pattern piece, and then I had cut a scrap piece of the vinyl that I'm using. I cut it a bit larger, and I glued that piece on top, so wrong sides together. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the top stitching, and then I'm going to trim the excess away. And that just makes sure that both of my pieces are matched up. I don't have to worry about if I cut them exactly the same and then trying to match them up perfectly. So this way, I just trim it off and it should be just fine. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to top stitch around. We're going to leave long tails and pull them to the back. Get as close to the edge as you can, so about 1/16 of an inch, or if you can't do that, if you have a hard time keeping it to 1/16, 1/8 should do, as long as you have glued or taped it down really well. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to find a place to start here, get my needle in, and give it a go. No back stitching unless you want to, but I'm using contrasting thread, so I don't think the back stitching will look good. So here we go. And just take your time. And when you get around to those curves, if you have to do a little hand cranking to make sure it looks nice, go ahead and do that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pull that stitch to the back right now. Yeah, this is no time to be rushing. You want it to look nice, so take your time. Okay, and we're going to meet right back up where we started. Okay. And now I'm going to pull the other thread to the back. And I'm going to tie those off. Trim this down just a little bit. I'm just going to tie that off. I'll do them 2 at a time, so I don't have a big bulky knot. I love this pattern so much. I think it's so cute. I just want to keep making them. Okay, I'll trim that off, and I'll singe it a little here with the lighter. Make sure they don't come loose. Okay, and now that that's top stitched, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to just go right along the edge and then just trim off the excess. Keeping it nice and neat. just like that. Okay, so that's my drawstring tab. Now, if you want, at this time, you would go ahead and you would edge paint. Since the back of my vinyl is also black, I'm not going to bother edge painting this time. I did on the others. I needed to, but I think this one, I think it looks fine. Just leaving it as is. And so, unless I decide to change my mind later and do maybe some red edge painting. Ooh, huh. I don't know. I'll think about it. But anyway, I got time to think about that. So I'm going to set that to the side now. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our exterior base piece. So I have my piece. It's all prepped. Again, I have my Decovil Heavy on the back. I have punched the holes for my purse feet. Before I put my purse feet on, though, we're going to make a stitch around the base here. Okay, so we're going to be doing it at 5/8 of an inch. If you don't have the markings on your machine, or if you're not comfortable with following the markings, you can use a ruler and a marking tool that is removable, and you can mark your lines all the way around so that you stay nice and even and consistent. Okay, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and give it a go. Again, I'm going to leave long tails. I'm not going to back stitch, and I'm going to get started here. So 5/8 of an inch. I'm using my top stitch length, which I use a 5 top stitch length. And so I'm just going to go around. Well, before I do that, I think on my other two, what I did was I did mark the curves. I did do that. So maybe I'm not, I'm not that brave. I guess I just wanted to make sure I keep my curves nice. So what I'm just placing my ruler and just kind of going around and making marks just to make sure my curves look nice. And then I just kind of fill that in like that. You make sure it's accurate here. So here, here. Okay. So I did mark my curves there. So that's what I'm going to do. So I just go, I'm just making little marks along the curve. I know it can be a little more time consuming, but it is worth it. And then I just kind of connect the dots. And I'm only doing that, like I said, on the curved edges here. And this is just a gel pen, and it will come off easily with a little water. So just get those marks, a couple more. Okay, just like that. So now, once I have those, now I can just go ahead and get started. Okay, so let me go back where I was here. Find my hole I made previously. There we go. All right, so now we're ready to go. Okay, I'm going to pull the thread to the back. This is also a good way to keep your stabilizer in place so it doesn't end up lifting. All right, pull this one to the back too. Okay, and then I'm just going to take all 4 of these and tie them together. Okay, and there we have it. Nice, and it looks so nice, you know, just adding that extra little top stitching there. So then we'll take our purse feet. I just have these little prong ones here, and I'm just going to add my purse feet, and then I'll put some tape over them, and then we'll come back. Once I get my purse feet on, we're going to come back, and I think the next thing we're going to do is our drawstring. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I've got my purse feet on my base. I went ahead and removed the white marks. It looks good. I have my duct tape on the back. And now next I said drawstring, but we're going to do our connectors first. So you should have 2 of these pieces. You should have the markings on the back, your Decovil Light or whatever stabilizer you chose to use. And then I have my double-sided tape on either side. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove the paper from the double-sided tape. And we're going to bring those raw edges into that center line. Okay, just butt them right up against each other, nice and smooth. Okay. Okay, so then you'll have it like this. We're going to top stitch around the entire connector here, 1/8 of an inch. Okay. And for these, I believe it's okay if we back stitch. Yes. So let's make sure we want to start at one of the short ends so that any back stitching is there, because that won't be seen later. Okay. I'm going to start here, and we're going to just go ahead. Uh-oh. Feels like something's wrong with my thread. Yep, I felt that. Looks like my bobbin thread broke. Let's get that checked out. Okay, yeah. It happens. Okay. So let's get going again. Let's start all over again. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna go. And nothing all the way around. Okay. Okay, so we have that one connector done. Okay, and I'm just going to show you this. So we're going to take a ruler here and we're going to make 2 marks. Okay, so we want to make, just want to double check. Okay. Okay, so we're going to make a mark 1 1/8 inch from one end, from the bottom edge, and center it. And then from the other edge, we're going to do a 1/2 inch and center that. Okay, so you should have 2 markings like that, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to punch those holes. Okay, these are our rivet placement marks. Okay, so just go ahead and we'll punch those holes. Okay, and so now you'll have your rivet holes there. So I'm going to go ahead, I want to do the other, I'm going to end up doing the other one off camera. But before I go, let's take a look at the drawstring. So you should have your drawstring. I wrote drawstrings on here because some of these pieces look the same, so I didn't want to get confused. So you should already have your center line marked if you did your prep work, and I have a piece of double-sided tape down the center, or you may have one on each end, whichever you chose. Okay, and so we're going to fold these raw edges in. We're going to leave a little gap, so don't fold all the way to the center line. Leave a little gap, about 1/16 of an inch from that center line on both sides, and we're going to go ahead and get these raw edges folded in to make our drawstring. Okay. Okay, so I got one side down here, and then we'll get the other side. So okay, so once you have that done, then you're going to fold it in one more time, matching up those folded edges. Okay, so you can clip it to hold it if you want. Me, I'm just going to kind of just fold it as I go, because we're going to give this a top stitch. Okay, now when you cut your drawstring, there were 2 lengths in the pattern. One is if you're going to leave the ends of your drawstring and tie a knot. So that's one measurement. And then there's one measurement for if you're going to use use some zipper ends or drawstring tab, the metal ends on the drawstring. So I am putting the metal ends on my drawstring, so I did cut to that measurement. And so if you're leaving these edges and you're going to tie the knot, then go ahead and sew across the short edge. But if you're going to end up putting one of those metal ends on there, I don't bother sewing across the short end because it's not going to be seen later anyway. So I'm just going to give it a go here. And I try to keep it a little under 1/8 of an inch. Okay. It's a very narrow strip, so you kind of have to take your time. Okay. Because you want it to look as neat, especially when you're using contrasting thread. I don't want it to look like my stitches are crazy. So I do tend to take my time on these things. Okay. And I'm just folding as I'm going. And I'm using my finger here to kind of keep it straight. Because it's so narrow, sometimes it wants to kind of fold out like a little snake. Okay, I'm getting to the end here. So when I get to the end, I'm just going to give it a little back stitch. Because like I said, I'm using some zipper ends, so it will not show. Okay, so we have our drawstring done. I'm going to go ahead and do that other connector. And then we will keep this party going. So that's what it's looking like. Very good. All right. So I'll be right back. So next we're going to do our handles. I've already done one handle. So this is what it's looking like. So I'll go ahead and do the next one so you can see how that's done. So we're going to take our handle strip. Again, if you've done your prep work, you're going to have some markings on the back. We should have a center line, okay, down the middle here. And then there's a line here and two lines that are intersecting that line. So this is the placement for these little squares that we're using. They're acting as some stabilizer here. So we're going to, I put some double-sided tape on the back and we're going to stick that. So it's going to go above the line, okay, and then right in between those markings. So just like that. And we have one for each side. Okay, and now we're going to add our double-sided tape. I'm going to put a piece on each side. Okay. And now we're going to fold those raw edges in. So remove the paper from the double-sided tape, and we're going to fold those raw edges in to meet that center line. The other side. Okay. I'm going to get those raw edges right up against each other. So those little squares just give a little extra stability to where the rivets are going to go, which I think is very, very, very smart. Okay. All right. So now, once we have that done, we're going to make another marking. So we're going to take our ruler, so follow the pattern for the measurement there, and we're going to draw a line from each end. Excuse me. Okay, so we have a line from each end there, and I'm just going to leave that for a second. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to top stitch our strap on each side, 3/8 of an inch in from each side. Okay, so not 1/8 of an inch, we're doing 3/8 of an inch from each side. Okay, I'm just going to pivot and then go a couple stitches over to the other end and then come back the other side. So now you should have a little track going down the center of your strap. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make our little faux rolled handle in between these two marks. We're going to fold to meet these folded edges here, matching them up. We can place some clips here. Okay, and we're going to top stitch the folded edges here within those marks. Okay, so once you have that clipped off, now we're going to start. So 1/8 of an inch, starting at the first mark, making sure the edges are matched up. You can leave long tails if you want, or you could just do a little back stitch. I'm just going to do a little back stitch there. And then we're going to go 1/8 of an inch. Okay, and we'll stop at the other mark and then back stitch. Okay, and now we have our second handle done. Let's give my threads a trim here and then burn off the ends. Make sure it's nice and neat. Oops. Be careful that you don't burn your vinyl. Okay. Alrighty, and I'll just remove those marks, and now I have my 2 handles. They're all done. Okay. So now I'm going to gather the instructions, and then we'll move on to the next step. Be back. Okay, so I have my shoulder strap now. So you should have 2 pieces for your shoulder strap. You should have a piece that looks like this, and then, which is your outer strap, and then you have a piece that looks like this, which is your inner strap. So your inner strap is going to be interfaced with some Decovil Light, and then I have a piece of 1/2 inch double-sided tape going along the entire length of the inner strap. On the outer strap, excuse me, you're going to place some marks 3/8 of an inch in from each long edge. Okay, and so that what that does is that gives us the placement for the inner strap. So we can remove the double-sided tape from the inner strap, and then we'll just start at one end and place it right down the center here. Okay, try not to stretch it. Just let it fall, because you don't want to stretch it out. Sometimes I tend to do that, you know, and it doesn't match up. Why is that not matching up? Hold on, let me just double check my measurements here, because sometimes I do. Let me see. I'm just going to double check the measurements of the shoulder strap, because it looks like one is like longer than the other. And it could be that I cut it off. So just give me one quick second, and I'll tell you if I did something wrong or not. If I did, it's probably Jazzy's fault.
Whoa.
Because she, you know, sometimes she distracts me.
I ain't did nothing this whole time.
So we have the, where are the straps? Shoulder strap. Oh yeah. So what I did was I cut the shoulder strap. I cut it a bit longer than I need 34, and then that one is 33. Okay, yeah, I did cut it a little bit long. So, but what I'm gonna do, well, actually I didn't cut the outer strap longer. I cut the inner strap a little too short. That's what I did. So, no biggie. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna start a little in here, because that little bit on the ends is not gonna matter, because that part is gonna get folded over the strap connector anyway. So let me go back to where I was here. I'm not worrying about it. Just Next time I'll just double check and make sure that I have them cut the same length. But it's not that big a deal, trust me. It's not gonna affect the strap at all. Okay, so I just have a little bit on the ends. Okay, so now we're gonna draw a line down the center. So grab your ruler and this, okay, so we're gonna draw a line right down the center. I'll move this out of the way. Okay. Okay, so once we have that done, then we can place our double-sided tape. Don't go down the center. Put a piece on each end. And the reason being is because you will have a little fold on the back of your shoulder strap. And so you don't want that sticky double-sided tape to be in that little gap there, okay? If you don't want to do your shoulder strap this way, you can do it the traditional way too, where you do a double fold, you know, cut it, so you would cut it twice as wide and just fold it over, fold the raw edges into the center and then fold it over one more time. So you could do that. You don't have to do your strap this way, okay? But I do want to show you, I like to follow the pattern as much as possible. So now we're just going to fold this into the center, into that line, okay? Oops. And we'll get the other side folded. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have that. Okay, let's get that. You can use a little roller if you want. Gotta make sure it looks nice and smooth. That rolled out. Okay, so now we're going to top stitch. So not from the side with the fold, from the other side here. And we're going to top stitch 1/4 inch from each side. We're going to also top stitch across the short edges here. Unless you're going to put some hardware on the ends, and you don't have to worry about that. Okay. And, oh, I'm sorry. Really, she has you do this 1/8 of an inch after you do your 1/4 inch top stitching, but I did it first. No harm, no foul. So, no biggie, no biggie. Because we're not doing 1/8 of an inch on the long edges. We're doing 1/4 inch. So, okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and do the 1/4 inch. I'm going to start 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. And there we go. I'm just going to go ahead and sew across the short edge. And then I'm going to stop that 1/4 inch. Okay. So I'll finish this up while Jazzy lets my son in. Okay, so I went ahead and finished up the top stitching on my shoulder strap while my son was coming in. And so I made some marks on the end according to the pattern. If you're going to put some strap ends on your shoulder strap, then you might want to adjust where you punch the holes for your rivets. So, or even also if you're using like really chunky hooks, think about that before you punch your holes. So mark the holes, then fold it over, and just kind of make sure that, because it could be like a tight fit. So just so you know, food for thought before you get to punching your rivet holes. Okay, because not all hardware is the same. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and punch my holes and put my hardware on, and then we're done with the shoulder strap. So we're moving right along. So I'm going to grab my rivet press here. I have 2 rivets all ready to go. I'm just going to get this in. My 2 swivel hooks. And I kind of like that I left the inner strap off the ends, because then now it's not so thick when I put my rivets on. Okay, so especially if you're using like a thicker vinyl, you might want to do that on purpose. Okay. All right. So I got that one set. And then we'll get this one as well. Okay. Okay. So now our shoulder strap is done. Now you could also, just to mention, you could also do a longer shoulder strap and make it adjustable. So keep that in mind. You don't have to do the shorter shoulder strap. You can make it adjustable if that is your preference. So we can put that aside. So there are some pieces that she tells you would be a good time to edge paint. So those pieces would be the ends of your connectors. Remember, we already did that. Again, I'm not doing any edge painting this time around. So you want to do the end of your connectors. You want to do your zipper overlay, the inside and the outside. Your shoulder strap, the ends of your shoulder strap, the ends of your drawstring, and what else? And your slip pocket trim. So I am not doing any of that, but just this would be the time so that way it can dry before you move on and get to the point where you have to, you know, put those things on your bag, and now your edge painting will be dry at that point. Okay, so we're moving on into in the pattern. So we're ready to get started on the exterior of the bag. And so we're going to start with our pocket pieces. So you should have 4 pieces, 4 of piece C, which is your center pocket. You should have 2 exterior pieces, and you should have 2 of your lining pieces. I'm using waterproof canvas, and I have this, what is this, croc or alligator, one or the other. I think it's croc and ostrich mix. This is from Big Z Fabrics, and I believe this, this one is from Fabric Wholesale Direct. This is Otter Text. Yeah. Waterproof canvas. Okay, so 4, like I said, 2 of your lining, 2 of your exterior of piece C, and then piece D, you will also have 4 pieces, 2 of your exterior and 2 of your lining. Now keep in mind, don't get this flipped around. The piece C, the top is the narrow end, and piece D, the top is the wider edge. So don't go flipping them the wrong way. So I used the pattern, I followed the pattern instructions, made a line at the top of all 4 pieces, and I applied a strip of double-sided tape. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to remove the backing from the double-sided tape, and we're going to fold those edges over. Which one is this? Oh, before I do that, I want to go ahead and I'm going to mark the center on this one. This is the one that I want on the front center of my bag. Okay. And so I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to make a little mark here because I want to put my label on. So I'm going to follow the recommended measurement for placing my label. And let's see, we're going to do right there. Okay. Sorry. Shoot. Right there. And then I'm going to make a mark. This is the center. Right there. Okay. And that's where I'm going to place my label. I didn't have any gunmetal labels available, but I am going to use this one that I think it'll work just fine. So don't tell nobody it's not, it's not gunmetal. Hopefully nobody will notice,
You weren't telling everybody.
I'm telling everybody. Well, I could do what I want to do. It's my prerogative. Okay, so I think that's about center. So I'm just using this little handmade label. It has the black lettering, so I think that works. Okay, just make sure I got it lined up there. Okay. We're going to get these. All right. We're going to get that done. Get that out the way. And get that. And then I'm putting a little piece of Decovil Heavy on the back. And I'll put my washer. And I'm just going to fold those prongs in. And then we'll add a piece of duct tape to the back. Get that off. And I'll just cover that up. Okay. So, see, That looks okay. See, it almost looks a little dark there. Nobody's gonna know, Jassy. So now I could go ahead and I could fold this edge over to meet that line. If I didn't compromise my tape by sticking it down. Okay. And I'll do that for all of these pieces. We're going to do the same thing. So we're just folding it over here. Okay. We'll just start with piece C here. Okay. All right. So once you have that done, we're going to match these up, wrong sides together. Place your lining about 1/16 of an inch right below the edge of your exterior. So that way your lining doesn't stick out over the top. Okay, and then we're going to place some clips to hold it in place. And then we're going to top stitch across the top. And then we'll base the sides down. Okay. Well, the sides and the bottom. Go ahead. So, all right. So now I'm going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch across the top. And then I'll go down the sides and just base these pieces together so that they don't, you know, go flopping around. Okay. If you want, you could put, you know, a little clip there to hold it. Okay, so we'll do the same thing for piece D. So let's go ahead and get started on piece C. Make sure you have that lining up far enough to catch the edge of your lining, but not so far that it's sticking out over the top of your exterior. Okay, so making sure I just caught that edge, so I'm good. So now I can go ahead and do the sides and the bottom. Oops, I dropped my needle. Make sure it stays straight. Okay. All right, so we got that. Even if you miss a little bit because it didn't quite line up over there, that's okay. Because once you sew it all together, that's going to get caught up in the seam allowance. So it's not that big a deal. So let's do this one. It's lined up properly. Okay. Okay, and if you need to, you could trim off any little excess that may be poking out. Okay, so like I have on this one, just a little bit on this one. just to neaten it up. Okay. So, center pockets are done. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for these side pockets, and then we will come back. All right, so now we're going to have to make a lot of markings on our front panel. So you're going to take your front panel. This is front panel, piece A. On the back, I've marked that this is the top. So the wider part is the top. And then you have your side, these little notches. You have your two side notches, your center notches at the top and the bottom. Okay. On the front side, we're going to make a mark. Check the measurements in your pattern for the mark that you're going to make from the bottom. You're going to make a mark, a line right across the front panel. And then you're going to also make these intersecting marks, and they line up with the side center marks on each of these. And then these are the handle placements, and you get this from pattern piece A. Okay, and you're going to do the same measurement from, this is piece B, which is your back panel. You're going to do that same measurement across, and then intersect the line here in line with your center notches. So we have that. So we have your piece A. Remember, the wider part is the top. Okay. We'll set the back panel aside for a second. So remember, we have our two center pieces and we have our two side pieces. Remember, the side pieces, they are the wider. The top is the wider. I marked the centers on all, top and bottom, on all four pieces. Okay, so we're going to need our two side pieces and then our center piece that has the label. If you're not using a label, whichever piece you deem to be for your front panel, you're going to place that. We can set the other center piece aside for now. Okay, so we're going to line this up, the center piece. We're going to line that up with the marking and this line right here. Okay, and it's going to overlap the handle placement piece, lines, I'm sorry. So make sure it's lined up with the center at the bottom and the center at the top, and then this line that we drew. So everything has to line up, okay? And just make sure right there, okay? And then if you need to make this a little easier, I'm just going to grab this masking tape here, and I'm just going to hold that down, okay, because we can't pin it. So I'm just going to hold that down for now, okay. Don't use anything too sticky, okay, because we don't want to leave any residue. And then we're going to do the same thing with the side pieces. So lining up with that line, and then the centers as well. Okay. And again, we can add a little tape to hold it down. Okay. We'll just tape this down. And then we'll put the other side panel on this side and line everything up. Just tape that down. Okay. We don't want anything shifting, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to base this in place on these three sides. Make sure you do not sew across the top. We don't want to close our pockets up. So we're going to sew around three sides on all three of these pocket pieces. Get as close to the edge as possible, okay, because we don't want any stitches showing through once we put our handles on, okay. So I'm going to turn this around, and I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to adjust this a little bit at the bottom, making sure that that center is lined up. Okay. Same thing with this one. Couldn't see the bottom too well, so I just want to make sure that it's lined up. And that one looks fine. Okay, so I'm going to start here on this one. You can start with the center. I'm just going to go ahead and start with this one. And I'm going to go right no more than 1/8 of an inch, okay? And I'm just going to back stitch. And I'll get this tape out of the way as I go. Making sure that this stays nice and flat. Okay, and then across the bottom. And then we'll go up the other side. Okay. Make sure this stays. We want this to stay straight. Okay. Okay. I think I moved this just a little bit. I'm going to adjust just the bottom. I don't like how it's just kind of moved just a little bit on this side. So we just basting. So I just want to make sure it's still lined up. That's why I tape it down good. Okay, and that's good right there. Don't be afraid to adjust it if you have to, because, you know, once it's on, it's on. So you got to make sure it's right. Okay. I'm just going to pick up where I left off right here. And bring it up. Okay. So I have that on. Oops, drop my nips. Okay, so we got that. Snip all these threads here. And we're good to go. So we have one pocket done here. Okay, and now we'll move on. I'm going to move on to the center. Oops, let me snip this one. And move on to this one, doing the same thing. Making sure it stays straight. To tell I'm gonna run out of bobbin soon. Okay, so still straight there. Across the bottom. Did I run out? No, not even. Okay. Make sure it doesn't stretch or move. Okay. And then we're gonna go. Okay, remove this tape here. Okay, and I'll just add it over here. So you see what we're doing here. We're just getting our pockets sewn on. Okay. And now the last side pocket. Hopefully I have enough bobbin thread to get through it. If not, we'll just have to change that bobbin. Okay, so just make sure it stays lined up. Okay. And across the bottom. And up this side here. Okay. So now we have 3 of our 4 pocket pieces on. Okay. And that's what it's looking like. Making sure they line up pretty good. That looks pretty good to me. Okay, and now on the back panel, you're going to take the last of your center pocket pieces, and we're going to line it up on this back panel, just like we did for the front panel. Making sure that the centers, okay, and then I'll just clip the bottom. Bottom here, and then we'll get this basted on just like we did the front. Okay. Okay. So now we have our pockets sewn on. And this is what we have here. Let me move this. We're looking good. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to get ready to put our handle on, attach our handle here. So let me get that together and just review the instructions real quick, and then I'll be right back. So we're coming back to just our front panel and one of our handles. So on your back of your handle, you're going to make a mark according to the pattern, and then you're going to place some double-sided tape right down the center. Don't go past the mark you made, okay? And then that same mark, I put also marks on the front of the handle because we're going to need that to determine where we stop our top stitching when we place our handle onto the front panel here. So also you want to use your ruler and your marking pen to connect the line here and add your handle marks along the pockets here because the pockets covered them up. So you just want to extend that line down so that you are placing your handles correctly. So make sure that when you place your handle that fold is on facing the exterior, and this top stitched edge over here where we have the 2 folded ends, that should be facing the back. So again, because we know this is the back of our handle, this is the front of our handle. So we're going to go ahead and remove the backing from the double-sided tape on one side, and we're going to get this placed on. So it's at an angle, so just make sure that the bottom part of your handle is right at the edge of your front panel. So the other side will kind of be hanging off the edge just a touch, okay? And we're going to line that up, making sure we're covering up the stitches on our pockets Nothing's poking out. And if you did your lines, your marks correctly, your measurements correctly, we should cover everything. Okay, so that side is done. And then we'll do the same thing. So now the other edge should be right at the edge and leaving one part hanging off on the other side. And we just get that lined up just like so. Okay. And now it's looking like this. Okay. And now we're going to do a row 1/8 inch top stitching right up to this mark. Do not back stitch. We're going to leave long tails and tie them off to the back. And then we're going to do the other side. And we're going to do that on both sides of our handle and making sure that they stay straight. So if you need to use your ruler, you know, to just kind of make sure that nothing is looking wavy, wonky, then we can get started. I am going to go ahead and change out this bobbin. And then also take a look and make sure that your pockets are lined up good. Okay, and if you need to adjust, go ahead and do that. Now I'm just looking at this and I'm wondering if this side is a little bit lower. So I didn't notice that before. So I'm just going to, well, I don't need to go back. I'm going to do this and see. And yep, that side is just a tad bit lower. So I'm actually going to go ahead before I do this top stitching, and I'm just going to adjust this one little corner, just bring it up just a little bit. Okay, so nothing's going to be affected by that because all of that's going to be covered up. So I wish I had caught it earlier, but I didn't. But you know, sometimes your eyes don't see things right away, and I'm the type, I'd rather go ahead and fix it because that's going to bother me later when it all comes together and I see that that was off. So just give me a second to fix that. So we can stop here, Jazzy, and I'm going to just go ahead and fix this off camera and then we'll come right back. Okay, so now that's looking so much better. All three pockets are lined up. I would have just like, oh my goodness, I would have been so upset if I had put that on and it was not. Okay, so make sure you check before you get to putting your handles on. Just make sure you check all your pockets are aligned. Okay, so again, we're going to get this top stitch 1/8 of an inch, leaving long tails at the top. Stopping at the mark we made. Okay. See that? We're going to tie that off, and then we'll do this side. Okay, and we got that side. So we'll get those tails pulled to the back, but we'll go ahead and get this other side done. We're almost there. And now, last one here, while the dog tracks across the floor. So we got that done. Okay. So now I could go ahead. I love that red stitching on the black. So we're gonna pull those threads to the back. I'm gonna get these tied off, and then, like I said, we'll just keep it moving. We're making this Marzia bucket bag. All right, I hope you guys are following along. Be right back. Okay, so we're back. I tied off those threads. I have my back panel. We're going to place the back panel right onto the slanted side edge on the right side. So your front panel's facing up. We're going to place it right sides together on the right side of our front panel. And we're going to clip it in place, and then we're going to sew it. My kids, be quiet. They're just bumping around. My house is very rarely ever quiet. I mean, you know, it's like, what can you do? What can you do? Should I kick them all out? I was talking about you too, Jay.
We're gonna record for you.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'll keep you there. Okay, so we're gonna sew this down. So check your seam allowances. Okay. And it might be a little bolt there from your pocket. So just, you know, if you need to use your narrow foot, go ahead. I'm just going to hold it down with my stiletto so that nothing shifts. And I keep my seam allowance accurate. Okay, so once you get that sewn together, okay, we're going to open that up, and we're going to press those seams open. Okay, if you want, you can use some double-sided tape to hold it down, but I'm just going to hold it down as I go, because we're going to top stitch on both sides of the seam here. It's 1/8 of an inch. So I'm just going to hold it open as I go. These clips at play. And as you do, make sure you just check and make sure that this pocket is lining up with the pocket on your front panel. So your pocket on your back panel needs to be lined up. So if you sewed it on and it's not lining up, you need to make some adjustments. Okay? And this does not have to be perfect, this top stitching here, because it's not going to be seen. Our handle's going to cover it up. So don't worry about if your stitches are not super straight here, okay? I'm just gonna pivot and come back up the other side. Okay, so let me fold this up out of the way. Make sure that seam allowance is open, and then come back. Oops. Okay, so once you have that top stitch down, okay, so you have that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our ruler and we're going to mark a 1/2 inch from each, on each side of the seam. Okay, so get your ruler right in that in that seam, a 1/2 inch from the seam, and we'll make a line all the way down. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. So 1/2 inch. Yeah, and this is our handle placement. Okay, for this side. Oops, I didn't draw the line very well there. Okay. Okay. So now we have our handle placements. Okay. So you're going to take your other handle. We have our other handle here. Just want to make sure. Okay. Just double check everything. Okay. Now, I've already done it, but I want to explain what we're doing here. So you're going to have this handle wrong side up. So you'll see the seam here. Okay. On the right side, while it's up facing you this way, this side, you're going to put a single strip of double-sided tape. So you have I have my 1/2 inch tape here, and we have our marks here that we're using the pattern to get our measurements to make a mark here where we're going to put our double-sided tape. On this side, do not use a single strip down the middle. You're going to have 2 pieces, one on each side. That's very important. So don't think you can do what you want to do. You got to follow the instructions, honey. So, and then on the right side, I also made those marks so I know where to start and stop my top stitching, just like I did on this one. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to, let me make sure I did that right. Now I said follow the instructions. Let me make sure I followed the instructions. I might have put the tape on the wrong one. Did I? No, I did not. I followed the instructions. Okay, so here's the single piece of double-sided tape, right? We're going to remove the backing, and then we're going to get this one lined up with our marks we made. Okay, so it's at that angle. Make sure it's within those marks. Okay, and get that pressed down. Okay, I'm going to have a lot of markings to remove later, right? Okay, this one, not attached yet, okay? So do not look to put that other end anywhere. Now we're going to do our top stitching on this side, on each side, just like we did on this one, leaving those long tails, okay? So let's get going. Okay, so I'm going to start up here at my mark. Drop my needle down, leave those long tails. Okay, so now we're going to do the other side. Okay. All right. Getting good here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pull these threads to the back, get them tied off. And then we're going to get ready to start making this look like the start of our bag, right? We're gonna connect these sides, and it's gonna start coming together. As right now, it's just looking all flat but we need to add some dimension by putting it all together. So let me just get this going here, like that, okay? And then now we're going to, let me just look ahead here. We're gonna sew that down and press it open, and then we'll add, okay. So let's just start, let me just start by getting this, so right side up. Remember, this one is loose. Don't worry about that just yet. Okay, we're going to fold this over to meet the other side, and we're going to place these together, right sides together here, matching up the edges. Let me do it this way. And we're going to sew this down. Now we're getting our cylinder created here. Okay. Again, making sure that your marks are lined up so that your pockets are lined up correctly. If you did all your measurements the right way, everything should be a-okay. Okay. So I like to put a lot of clips so nothing is moving around too much. Okay, I'll just double check and make sure that that's looking lined up, and it is. Okay, this is such a cute bag, y'all. I'm telling you, it is so cute. Okay, so I'm going to sew this down. Sew this side down here. See, that pocket is trying to push it out of line. So just make sure, if you feel you need to switch to a zipper foot, go right ahead. I'm too lazy to do that, so I'm just gonna make it submit to me. Okay. Just get that in place. Make sure it stays on that. Okay. Alrighty. Alright. So now we have a cylinder here, right? And we have to get the seam open, and we need to top stitch just like we did for the other side. So, but this time it's not flat, so we have to work from the inside, okay? So it shouldn't be too difficult. Just make sure your handles are out of the way. I'm going to start by getting this open. I'm going to get my needle in place right up under there. And remember, this does not have to be perfect top stitching here because it's not going to show. Our handle will cover it all up. Just make sure you get those seams open properly. So if you need to, keep your finger up under there. Don't sew over your finger, okay? Okay, and we're just gonna top stitch. And I'm gonna keep moving and checking as I go. Keep everything flat, just move this back. And just like this, make sure it stays open. Like I said, if your double-sided tape helps you to do that, go ahead, keep your seams open with some double-sided tape. Okay, so it's a little fiddly, but you'll get it. Okay, because this bag does not have tons of stabilizer, so it shouldn't be too hard to manipulate. Okay, it's meant to be a little slouchy because it's a bucket bag, right? Nobody wants a stiff bucket bag. Then you won't be able to use the drawstring. Okay, So that's another thing. Think about the materials you use making this bag. You don't want any vinyls that are super thick and stiff, because then it's going to be hard to close up your drawstring. Okay, so see, painless. That wasn't too bad. With this, okay. So now we have that top stitched again. So I'm going to just turn this to the right side for a second. And you can start to see how it's coming together. That will be the center. Isn't that cute? Isn't that cute? This is gonna be so cute. Okay. But I did this because now we need to draw our handle placement, right? Like we did on the other side. So get your ruler in place. And we're going to draw that line all the way down. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay. Make sure it's lining up properly. There you go. All right. So let me just do a little double check here. So we did we got that. We followed that instruction. Okay. Place the wrong side out. Okay, we're good. I just want to make sure I was doing what I needed to do. Okay, so now while this is still right side out, we're going to go ahead. We'll remove the double-sided tape here. And we're going to get this in place here, following those markings here. Make sure you're within the marks. All right, look at that. And just to do a little quick check, if you match up your centers, make sure your handles are falling in line, and they do. So now we can turn this back around so we can top stitch the handle on. Okay, still going to be leaving those long tails. Okay. Again, it's a little more challenging because we're working within a tube here, but we can get it done. We just get it done. What in the world was that? Somebody playing music? Okay. All right, so let's just go. Long tails. And move it back. Keep moving back. I'm just going to sew right across the bottom and go over to the other side. And come back up. So that way I don't have to cut my thread and start over. So now I'm coming back up. All right, that's done. That is done now. So now all I need to do is pull these threads to the back and tie them off. And then we can get ready to go to the next part of our steps. I'll be back. Okay, so before we get started and on the next step, we're going to place some masking tape across just right here where the handles are connected here, because they're pretty floppy, okay? And we don't want our stitches to pop loose as we're doing a lot of maneuvering with this bag, okay? So let's just go ahead and I'm just putting a piece of masking tape right there, right over the handles, just to keep them from pulling as we go to the next step, okay? So let's get that done. Now, we're going to take our piece E. We should have 4 of piece E, okay? You should have 2 with Decovil Light centered in the middle. These are your bottom pieces, okay? And then you should have 2 without, well, I did put some woven interfacing per instructions in the pattern. She advises to do that if your vinyl or whatever material you're using is thin or particularly stretchy. This vinyl is a little stretchy, so because this is the part where we're going to have our grommets, and so you definitely don't want that to stretch out over time and your grommets to loosen up. So I did go ahead and put some woven interface in there. So we don't need our top. Those are the ones with the markings for the grommets. And I did mark what side is the top. Again, in your prep work, you will have some markings to make on the back of this. So they should be there. There's some markings on the side. There's a marking across the top. And so make sure you do that, okay? So, and then this is our bottom pieces here. So we're going to take our 2 bottom pieces. We're going to put them right sides together. And we are going to clip the sides and sew them together. Okay, so let's do that first side. So get that side. Then we're going to open that up. Open out that seam allowance. Oops. And we're going to top stitch. And you do need to be neat about this top stitching because it will show. Just a little bit more. Okay. So once we get that top stitched, we're going to put the other side together. Do the same exact thing. Okay. And again, we're going to top stitch. Slide that under there. Okay. Get that from under there. Oh, hey. These people just bumping around. Okay. All right. So now we have that. And by the way, you should already have had your center marks on your bottom panel here. Okay. So now we're going to get ready to attach this to the bottom of our bag. So of course that's the end without the handles, right? And we're going to, I'm going to just set this up and we're going to line. So the notches is my center and the seams are my side, right? On the front, you have your center where your center pocket is with the label. So you know this is your centers, and then these are your sides. So you have your notches already in place there. Your back, your bottom should be right side out because we're going to slide this in. I'm just, which side do? Okay, I'm going to slide this in just like this. And then we're going to match up the notches. So I'm going to start with the center. Okay, turn it and do this side. And if you did your seam allowances correctly, it should fit with no problem. Okay, and then those side seams get matched up with these notches. Okay. Everything looks like it's fitting really well. And goodness, let me get that on there. Okay. So it fits perfectly. Now we're going to sew that in place. Okay. Follow your seam allowance per pattern instructions. We're going to get this done. Okay, made it all the way around, and now we're going to move these move these clips, and we're going to push that seam allowance down toward the bottom. Toward that bottom panel, going to push the seam allowance down. It should want to already lay down that way, okay? And now we're going to top stitch. Now, we're going to leave long tails so we keep it nice and pretty, Okay, I'm just going to start over here on the side. So 1/8 of an inch from that seam, and we're going to get our needle in place and leave long tails. Okay, and let's give it a go. If you get to a little bulky spot, which I'm about to, then just take a little piece. I keep a little piece of vinyl here, and I'm just going to lay it under there just to kind of even things out so that I'm able to go over it smoothly. Okay. Just keep rolling it and pulling that bottom nice and taut, keeping your stitches nice and straight. I'm going to pull this thread so I can have my tail pulled to the back before I get to where I started. Okay, there we go. Right, pull this to the back, and we're going to tie that off. Okay. Okay, just give it a little singe there. Okay. And I'm just going to turn it out for a real quick second, because y'all know I like to see how things are progressing. Okay. Just to make sure it looks good. Oh yeah. Look at that. That looks good. I like that. All right. So now we're going to take the top pieces, and we're basically doing the same thing with the top, except I'm just checking something real quick. And we're top stitching. Okay. The only difference is we have these markings. Remember I told you. So make sure that you have the top sides up. Okay. So this is the top on this one. This is the top. So they have to be faced in the same way. We can't have this going this way. So let's do it this way, right? And then there's some markings on the side. So we're going to sew till we get to that first mark. Then we're going to skip over and start at this next mark and finish sewing. So it leaves a little gap. That little gap is for when you add your rivet. So that way you're not riveting through a seam, okay? So very smart, right? So, but before we do that, let's get your connectors, because we do We need to add I want to add the connectors before I forget, because that would not be good. Where's my other connector? Okay, so remember on our connectors, when we did our connectors, we made 2 rivet holes. So you have one that's a half an inch up from this end and one that's 1 1/8 inch up from that end. So this is the bottom, the end that has the hole 1 1/8 inch away is the bottom. Okay, that's the end that you want to attach to the top of your bag at the side seams here. So where your notches are, we're going to place that connector right there, not the other end with the 1/2 inch rivet mark, rivet hole. So line that up, center that up, and we can clip it, get that clipped in place. It's important we get this on. Make sure the right sides are together, so that seam is going to be facing up, okay? And then get the other one on. It's important because if we put our top band on without having our connectors on, now that would not be good at all, okay? So we have that. Now we can go ahead and baste those in place, and then we can sew up our top band and top stitch, and we're getting very, very close to finishing our exterior, okay? So let me go ahead and sew this up. Make sure those the top sides are on the same end. Okay, so I'm going to start here. Okay, and I'm going to sew down to that first mark, and I'm going to back stitch. Then I'm going to skip over, drop it into the next mark, back stitch, and then finish it out. Okay, so we're leaving that tiny little gap there. Okay, and we just snip that little part that we skipped. Make sure there's nothing there. Okay, so when you turn it over to the right side, we'll have a little tiny hole there. And again, we're going to top stitch on either side. Okay. Okay, and then we'll do the other side the same exact way. Okay. Just snip this little thread in the middle, and then we will top stitch. So now that we have that, we make sure our handles are out of the way. Again, I'm just gonna go ahead and, oh, I didn't base my connectors on. Good. Okay, but I wanna turn this back. Just to, turn back around. Let me turn this back around. Get my connectors basted in place. Okay, make sure they're in the right spot. Okay. And the other side. Okay. So my connectors basted in. Now I can add my top band here. Get those handles out of the way. Okay, make sure they're pushed down out of the seam allowance. Make sure that the top, so we don't want to match up the side that we have labeled as the top. Okay, we want to match it up with the other end. So just like we did with the bottom, we'll find the front center. I'm always looking for that pocket, that center pocket with the label, so I know that that's my center. Okay, keep that right side out, and we're going to get this clipped in place. Make sure those handles stay out of the way. All right. You will not be happy if you sew over your handles. Okay. And then match up the sides. The sides should be where the connector is, so it could get a little bit bulky there. Okay, so just be ready for that. Okay. Okay, once again, everything matches up really well. And we could go ahead and we're going to sew that in place. Okay. Excuse me. All right. Okay, we got our top on. Everything's looking good. Oops, wrong thread. Okay, so now we're going to pull this up. Okay, got our connectors down there. Okay, we're going to pull this up, and I believe we're top stitching through the top. Let me just make sure, or maybe we're not. Now, okay, keep the exterior, make it top stitch toward the exterior middle tube. Oh, okay, so no, we are top stitching through the you should have seen me press toward the exterior middle tube. Okay, so we need to press the seam allowance down. So we're calling this middle part with the pockets the exterior middle tube, okay? And we're going to press the seam allowance down toward that and then top stitch. So we're not top stitching through the top band, okay? And I believe we're, yeah, make sure your connectors are folded up, handles out of the way. Okay, your connectors will be folded up. Okay, so we're going to be top stitching through all of this bulk here. So if you're on a cylinder arm machine, you can have it right side out. Flatbed machine like this, you're going to need to have your bag inside. Yeah, inside out. I was like, am I saying that right? Okay, so find a spot to start. Going to leave long tails just like you did for the bottom. And we're going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch from the seam, okay? Make sure you keep that seam allowance pressed down toward the middle. And keep the connectors flipped up. Don't let them flop back down when you stitch over the top of your connector. That won't be good. Now it's going to be a little bulky where that connector is. So again, grab your little scrap piece or whatever you're using, or your hump jumper, and put that there so that you go over it smoothly with no skip stitches. Okay. Okay, let me pull this thread to the back so that it's out of the way. And I'll come back around. I'm over here to the other connector, so I'm just going to get my little hump jumper in place. Okay. Okay. Reach the end, and there we go. Pull this to the back, and we're going to tie these threads off. Okay. All right. It's feeling good. It's looking good. Okay, so now we're going to turn this around. Turn this back around. Okay. Look at that. Okay. Oh, the stitches are so pretty. Okay, we can remove this tape from our handles. Okay. Now we're going to take a little piece of double-sided tape because we have a little gap there, right, with our handles. So we're just going to put a little bit right up to the seam and press that down, okay? Just so we make sure that it's falling where it should. So just lift up your handle and then get that double-sided tape just right up under it, just like that, okay? So we'll do that for all 4 sides of our handles. So. This side and this one. Get that right there. Okay. And then we can remove that and then let that just fall in place there. Okay. So there we have that. It's coming together. It's starting to look like a bag. Yes, yes. Okay, so let me see what we're doing now. All right. Okay, so we're going to mark. We're gonna. Okay. Stitch. Oh, okay. I get it. Okay. No problem. All right, so now we have to finish stitching the handles. So remember, we left off here where we left the long tails and tied them off. We're going to sew up right across, matching up with our top stitch line, and then come back down. So if you want, you can draw that line there so you make sure that you're matching up. I'm not going to draw any line there. I'm just going to go ahead and sew. But I do need to turn this back around because I'm just not comfortable doing it the other way. So I'm just going to start with one. I'm going to drop my needle right in where I left off, where I tied off the stitch. I'm going to drop my needle in there. I'm going to come up to my top stitch line there, go across, and then come back down. Again, leaving long tails, okay, to tie off. So let me get up under here. Sorry, I know it's hard. It's not going to be really easy to see at all, if at all. But just trust what I'm saying here. Go. Come up. Try to get it in line with my top stitching. Okay. And go across. Right there. Okay. So the first one's done. Okay. So I'll show you what I did here. So just like that, that's it. So I just stitched up and across and back down. And I'm going to go tie those threads off, and I'm going to do the other 3 exactly the same. So I'll go ahead and do that off camera. I'll come back and we'll go to the next step. Okay, so I have finished tying off the thread, sewing, finishing the top stitching on my handles and tying off the threads. So now we're going to get ready to add the base of our bag to our exterior. So we have our notches. We're just going to line up. Remember, make sure it's the center notches that match the long edge and not the side. Okay, so we're going to get this all clipped on and get it sewn. Hopefully fits nicely. So I'm just adding some clips here. Flip this over. I'll do the other center. And then I'll do the sides. Match that up with the side seams. I'll just place one clip there. The other side. Place. Okay. Okay, now I'm just going to grab my scissors here, and I'm going to make some snips in the bag in the bottom panel, not in the base of the bag, but just around these curves. Just make sure you don't go past a 1/4 inch, and just make some little snips. Just makes it lay in there nicely. Let's get this 4 sides. Okay, so once you have those snips in place, you can finish clipping. Clip those curves. They should spread out nicely. You might have to adjust just a little. Okay. There's a fly in here, jeepers. I hate flies. Every time the dog goes in and out. Okay, so let's get this side clipped here. Everything's fitting. I'm happy about that. Okay, so now we have it all clipped. we're gonna go ahead and sew it together. I like to sew from the top here, not under the bottom. And we'll get that going. So I wonder if I should have switched to black thread. You know me. You know I'm not doing that. Okay. I'm just gonna get going here. Okay. Let's see. Make sure it stays straight. And if you need to, you can add some staples to hold it in place if you feel you need to. I don't think I need to, so I'm just going to just go for what I know here. Just push that corner back. What's that? Oh, that's my purse feet I'm feeling. Okay. All right, and just go around these curves. Take your time. Push this in. So just push that down. Okay. There we go. Okay. Ever since Nala, like, you know how she sits up here with me? My granddaughter. And she likes to pull on my light.
It be drooping?
Yes. She stretched my light out. I'm going to have to get a new one. Because I can't keep it out of my face now. Like that little girl. She's so funny. She loves to climb up here with me when I'm sewing. Okay. You're getting there. Okay, we're on this last curve here, making sure that everything's pushed in and flat, so we don't have any puckers. Okay. All right. We're in the home stretch now. Okay, so now I'm going to actually run another row of stitches right next to these, just so everything is good and tight there. It keeps you from seeing those stitches, especially since I'm using a contrasting color. And hopefully that'll help. So it's within the seam allowance. I'm just running another row of stitches. We got the base on. We got the base. We got the base. We got the base. Okay. Did she say? Okay. We're just gonna trim down the seam allowance from the curves so that when we turn this out, it lays nicely. I'm just gonna take a peek inside, make sure everything is good. Okay, it does. So I'm just gonna trim down just around the curves. Make sure you don't cut your stitches. And you don't have any bulk around these curves, so they look nice and smooth. All right. There we go. We got that. And then we are going to add. Okay, so we have two more of those little small little squares to put on where our connectors go. Well, what did I do? The other one went missing. It's in here. Oh, here we go. Okay, so we're going to add those, and then we'll be finished with our exterior. So here, up here at the top, where we have here's our connector sticking out here. Right here, where the seam is. That's where, remember we left a little hole? We left a little hole right there for our rivet. That's where we're going to place this little square right there. What does it say? Oh, first she says we should fold our seam allowance down, because this is a drop-in bag, a drop-in lining. So that's why we have this line drawn across the top. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do that first, okay? So I'm going to add double-sided tape around the top edge, and then we're going to fold that seam allowance down. And then we'll add those little pieces, which once again, they just act as some stabilizer for our rivets. Because rivets can loosen up over time too. And I've had rivets pop out on me. Hasn't happened in a long time, but let's hope it doesn't happen anytime soon. Okay, so we have our double-sided tape. We're going to remove the paper, and we're going to start folding that down, folding the seam allowance down to meet that line that we drew. So I'm going to start with the seams, make sure they line up, and just fold away. Make sure it's even. That's why we marked the top. That's why we put that line there. So we can make sure it's looking good. Okay, here we have another side. Okay, and press that down. Okay. And get that going. Get that. Okay, so there we go. And just smooth that out. Okay, now we can place those little squares. We have double-sided tape on the back, and right where the connectors are, and right, you'll see That's where the hole is, that little hole. This little stabilizer piece should go right there, right where the seam is open and right under where we folded the seam allowance down. Okay, so we just put a little piece there and we'll put a piece on the other side. Okay. And that just gives it a little more stability there. Okay, and then we're going to take our stiletto, put it through the hole in our connector, and go right through that hole in the side seam and push it through. So then that way we know when we go to put our rivet in, we have that hole there. Through this little stabilizer, the hole is made there. Okay. So, excuse me. So once again, through the hole in the connector, and then through that little gap we left, and right through that little stabilizer piece there, and just push it. That way it'll make it a little easier to put your rivet through later. Okay? So let's turn this out once again. Kind of see what everything's looking like, because the exterior is pretty much done. Now we're going to move on to the interior and be able to put everything together. So I have to just go through and remove all my markings off this bag, and there's lots of them. So I just want to make sure my bottom is looking good. Now see nothing crazy, and I think that looks really good. Looks really good there, right? Okay, so we just get that nice and work that out. Okay, and then that's what it's still going to be looking like. Okay, look at that. Looks good. I love it. So again, I'm going to go remove all these marks except for where my grommets go. Those stay for now. Okay, and then the next thing we'll be doing is starting our interior. We're getting there. We're getting to the nitty gritty. All right. Okay, so now we're going to get ready to do our interior zipper pocket. So you should have your main lining piece that looks like this. Your zipper pocket piece. And your zipper tape, your zipper pull, and your zipper facing. So I've already put some double-sided tape. I did fuse some Decovil Light onto the back of my zipper facing because I felt, like I said earlier, this vinyl is a little bit stretchy and not too thick. I've marked the centers on my zipper pocket piece and also on my main lining. And so we're going to get ready to place our zipper facing, our zipper overlay rather. And so use the measurement in the pattern, and I'm just going to line up my ruler right at the center here, and I'm going to find the center on my zipper overlay. Okay, let me just get this back where it's supposed to be. Okay, and then just look at this place. Now I might be doing mine a little bit different than she does in the pattern. Just simply, it all comes out the same. So if you have a certain way that you like to do your zipper overlays or your zipper pockets, go ahead and do that. Okay, so now I am going to sew around the outside of my zipper overlay. Get that in place. So top stitching at 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to leave long tails, make it nice and neat. Take your time around those corners. Okay, I'm going to pull my thread to the back here. Okay, so once that's done, I'll tie off these threads and we will cut out the fabric from the little zipper window. Okay, and just burn that up a little. So now I'll take my scissors and I'm just going to make a snip here and then cut this out from behind. So and just carefully cut around here. Okay, neatness is not a factor here. Okay, so now we have that. Okay, so now I'm going to take my zipper tape and my zipper pocket piece. I'm gonna have both right sides up and I'm going to lay my zipper down right onto one short edge of my zipper pocket piece, and I'm just going to sew that on with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay. And then I like to top stitch. So I'll just turn that over, pushing my seam allowance down toward the zipper pocket, and I'm going to top stitch. Like I said, if you're following along with the pattern, she may do hers a little different, but same outcome. Okay. Now I'm going to flip my zipper pocket up and line it up with the other edge of the zipper tape and making sure the sides are even. And I'm going to sew this side as well. Okay. So now I can add my zipper pull. Okay. Then I'm going to grab my double-sided tape. Where does it start? And I'm just going to add piece along the edge of the zipper tape. I don't go all the way to the end because I'm going to be sewing down the sides, so I don't want to sew down over the double-sided tape. Okay. This is just so it can hold in place when we get ready to add it here. So we lay this up, and I could trim this down. Trim this little extra down here. Okay. It's gonna make sure we don't. Okay, so we're gonna lay this down, and then we're going to center our overlay right over the zipper tape, making sure we have equal amounts on both sides. Okay. And then I like to turn it to the side here so I can see both sides and making sure it's centered. And then I'll just remove the double-sided tape from one side. And we're going to press that down. I'm going to press that down. And then I'll do the other side. Okay. Make sure it stays straight. Okay. And press that side down. All right. And that's what we're dealing with. Okay, looks good. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to sew. So I'm going to go 1/8 of an inch past the window, start and sew across, and stop 1/8 of an inch past the other side of the window. I'm just doing the bottom, so I need to lift this up because I don't want to sew through my zipper pocket. So we're going to lift that up. Okay. Again, I'm going to leave the long tails here. Move my zipper pull out the way. Make sure it's still nice and straight there. Okay. And then we will tie those off. Okay. Now I'm going to flatten that back down. And now we're going to sew the rest. Make sure that's nice and flat. So we're going to sew the rest. So I'm going to start at the point where I left off here, sew up the side, go across the top, and come back down. And tie those. We'll tie these threads off, and then all that's left to do for the zipper pocket is to sew the sides down. Okay, so we'll turn it over to the front. We'll pull the side back, and then we're just going to sew down about 1/4 of an inch. Just go, oh, pull my thread out. I think it's time to change my bobbin again. And here we go. Just go over the zipper teeth a few times just to make sure. Uh-oh. Oh, something happened. I think I ran out of bobbin. I just said, I need to change my bobbin.
You never listen to yourself.
Oh, lordy, lordy, lordy. Well, at least I have. Yep, it was totally empty. Okay, well, that's why you gotta have multiples ready to go. I knew it was about time, but I thought I could make it. All right, so let's give that one more go. There we go. Hey, it happens. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Okay, we'll get this side pulled back. And we don't need to leave our zipper pocket open because remember, we're doing a drop in. Okay. Here we go. So, the zipper pocket is done. Looks good inside and out. Okay. So, now we're going to set that aside. And we're going to grab our other lining piece. So our other main lining piece and our slip pocket piece. And here is our trim, our slip pocket trim, which is right here. Okay. And let me just check. Okay. So now we are going to, let me just make sure I have this oriented the right way according to the pattern piece, because I tend to, okay, yeah. All right. So, yeah, we're going to place that. Let me just check the placement of the slip pocket. Okay, so we're going to draw some lines on the back of our slip pocket piece. So on the sides, we're going to draw a 1-inch line on each side. 1 inch. Okay. And then on the other side. Okay. We'll apply some double-sided tape. And we're gonna fold over to the line. We have some nice edges here. No raw edges to our slip pocket. Okay, and then we'll take the other side and fold that over. Okay, and then we're going to fold it in half like that. I like to take another piece of double-sided tape and just add it right across the top here to hold everything down. You don't have to do that if you don't want to end up sewing through some double-sided tape, but I find it helpful to make sure everything is lined up well. And make sure your sides are all even. Okay. So now we'll take our slip pocket trim. I've already marked the center and I placed double-sided tape on both sides. So now all we need to do is peel back one side. We're going to center our pocket. And I like to leave a little gap. I don't like to put it all the way to the line. So then that way when it folds over, you know, there's room for it to fold without pushing the fabric. So you don't have that bulk there right up against the fold line. So we're going to peel this one off. And I like to start with the sides and make sure they're nice and even. And then I use my ruler to make sure I have a really even fold here. Okay, press that down. Now we're going to top stitch right across the bottom edge. You may choose to backstitch or not. I will. Right. And then we'll just trim the extra off. Make sure my threads don't come loose. So just give it a little singe with the lighter. Okay. And now we're going to add this to our lining. So I'm just going to give this a little fold, a little crease to mark the center. And then I will grab my ruler and my lining piece, and we're going to measure up from the bottom. Okay, measure from the bottom. Okay, right there. And there is let me do it again. This is so thick, it's hard to see. Okay. Okay, so that's about right. All right. Is that even? Or did I move? That's even. Okay. So you could use some clips to kind of hold it. I fold this over and I just add a couple of clips so that it doesn't shift when I go to move it to the machine. Okay, and now we're going to sew down the three sides. So down this side, across the bottom, and up the other side. And back stitch really well at the top. Come down the side. I can move this clip out the way. Give it at the corners. You can even make this a divided pocket if you choose by sewing right down the middle, but I'm just going to leave it just the way it is. I like a wider pocket. Okay, here we go. Nice and neat. Okay. Now we're going to add some rivets right in these corners. I find that it helps to really reinforce the corners so your pocket doesn't like rip over time, and you don't want that. Okay, so I'm just punching a hole right on this corners here. Not through my stitches. Okay, just eyeballing it. Threads. Okay. And then I'll add a couple of these. I also use some stabilizer on the back. So I'll cut a little piece of Peltex that I keep over here. So I'll just cut two pieces, little pieces of Peltex. And I will punch a hole through. That just reinforces it even more. And then put my rivets in. And it looks nice. Makes your pocket look nice with a little blingy ding there. Okay. And add my Peltex and my cap. And then I'll set that with my rivet press here. Okay. Neat-a-rooney. Wonder, can y'all hear how nasally I sound? I'm getting a little bit of something. Okay, so let's just lock these rivets in place. There we go. Pocket's done. Okay. So now we're going to get ready to add our top panels. I thought I said, did I put that in the right place? Okay, so we're going to add our top panels. So let me just give this a little look-see. Just make sure I got everything. Okay. So now we're going to grab our top panels. You should have two. Okay. And on the back, you should have some lines drawn. So we have a line drawn here. And I made sure I wrote, this is the top side. Okay. That's very important because this is the side that's going to get folded down for your drop in. So don't confuse and fold this in. Okay. And then you also have a mark for your magnetic snap. And then you have these lines on the side, just like we did for the exterior. We're going to leave a gap there for the rivet. So we're going to get that on. But before we do, we have to put our magnetic snap on. So I'm just going to grab one here. I ran out of my rivet ones, so I'm just using the regular prong type, which I'm almost out of those too. So I just have a magnetic snap here. I'm going to use the washer to mark where the prongs go. Okay, right there, and right here. Okay, all right. And I'll just cut those. And then we'll put one here. And I like to fold them inward. Okay. And the other one on this side. You could put a little piece of stabilizer behind these as well if you feel you need to, but I don't think so. With the washer here, I think it'll be fine. So, and I'm gonna put a piece of tape as well. Sometimes I like using this little nylon tape for my, it just covers the prongs here and doesn't get in the way of a lot of things. Let's cover that up. Okay. So there we have it. So now, let's see what side we want to put. We want to put each one on. So we're going to put the male portion on the one with the slip pocket and the female portion, which is this one, on this side. Okay, so remember, this is the top. So we want to attach the bottom to the top of our lining panel, okay? So right sides together, matching up our center marks. Let's clip it in place and get it sewn on. Okay. Sew it. If your magnetic snap is in the way, like mine is a little bit, then you may want to switch to your zipper foot if it's hard to get by. Or you can add your magnetic snap after you sew. After you sew the top on. But I was able to get past it. Okay. So we're going to now, I'll sew the other one on before we top stitch. So again, we want the bottom. So that's the bottom there. Line it up. now we will top stitch, and we're going to fold this up and push the seam allowance down toward the lining panel, and we're going to top stitch. We got that side done. And then we'll do the other. Okay, so that didn't take much time, right? I love the red and black. I always like red and black. I'm a fan of red and black. Okay, so now we are going to get ready to put these together. Okay, so I'm just reading. Okay. So she's in the pattern, it says if you have anything kind of sticking out, like you'll have this kind of sticking out a little bit over here, just trim off these little corners here. Just trim them off, as they will kind of poke out here, because this kind of angles in here. So we just trim these little corners off the back, and we won't have to worry about that. Okay, so then we'll put it together. So we're going to put them right sides together. Just snap that in place, make sure it's nice and even. And we're going to clip down the side. Make sure that these match up here. So if you need to adjust it a little bit, which I do, just want to make sure they're all even here. And clip there, and we'll clip the bottom here. Okay. All right, so now remember those two lines there. So we're going, not the long line that for our drop in, but there's two small lines here. So we're going to sew down to the first line, back stitch, then skip over to the next line, back stitch, and sew all the way down. So we leave that little gap there. So once again, we're not putting a rivet through our stitches and compromising the integrity of our seam. Okay, so we don't want to do that. So I'm to the first line, I'm back stitch, and then I'm just going to lift up and then drop into the second one, and then back stitch, and then now we're done. And don't forget this little angle. We have to curve, follow that little angle, and then back. Okay, and we just right here where we left the little gap, just snip that thread. Okay, so we have the little gap there, and then we'll do the same thing on this side. Let me just check and make sure that my seam, hey, it's not perfect, but I'm not gonna cry about it. Are you gonna cry about it, Jazzy? Yeah, don't cry about it, Jazzy. It's okay. It'll be all right. It's gonna be all right. So we'll do the same thing on this side. Lift my needle and drop it down here. Okay. So now there's a little instruction here. Let me see what she's saying here. Okay. And then we're going to open that up. There we go. Okay. So what she wants us to do now is she wants us to snip right here, just below the top band. Just make a little snip, but not, not until you stitch, just right before you stitch. Okay, so just a little snip, just like that. So we have that, right? And then she says about 3/4 inches below that, we're gonna make another one. Okay, so we'll have this open just like this, okay? And that just because you have that curve, so that's just gonna help it when you open up your seam, that everything just is able to fall nicely there, okay? So once again, just below, just to your seam, and then another, okay? And then we can press that seam open. Okay. This waterproof canvas it's not, the greatest with staying open, but I just kind of like use my finger to kind of press it. Look it up. Okay. Just run my finger. Okay. And up here. I guess she doesn't say to do any stitches there, does she? Just want to make sure. Okay, no. All right, so we're going to open up these seam allowances here. Let's get that open. And then we're going to get ready to add our interior base here. Okay, so that's good. Let me grab my base. So, and remember, your interior base is not cut the same as your exterior. There's two separate pattern pieces. So don't make a mistake and cut them both from the same pattern piece, okay? So just like we did for the exterior, we're going to match up the centers first and then make some snips and then sew, clip the corners, clip the curves, and then sew the rest. Sew everything in. So get my words together, girl. I'm telling you, I'm so tired. I didn't sleep well because I'm coming down with a little cold. So I was like, sheesh. The longer I was going, the more I was feeling it. I started out okay, but now I'm really feeling it. Okay, so again, open up the seam here. Open that up. Match it to the center. And I'm putting my clips in upside down because I'm going to be sewing it from the other side. So I'm just going to turn them around because then it makes it a little easier to remove them when they're facing the right way. Okay. So that's what we need to do. Just do that quickly. And then we'll do this side over here and get that opened up. What is the seam allowance for the base? I think it's the same as the exterior. Yes. Okay. We're gonna snip no more than 1/4 inch so we don't go into our seam allowance. Okay. And snip, 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 snip. And the last part here. And this waterproof canvas has no stretch whatsoever. So it even with the snips, sometimes it just doesn't want to, give you that give, that you look for. So you still just kind of have to manipulate it the best you can. And it will eventually work out. So clips, staples, whatever you choose to help you in this part here. If you're using a cotton, it's a little more forgiving than this, especially this thick PVC backed waterproof canvas. I love it, but some people don't like it for that reason. I feel like it adds to the longevity of your bags. I mean, it makes them a little more durable, the insides anyway. Okay, so now that that's all clipped together, we can give it a sew. Okay, so I'm just going to start on one of these long sides and take my time and get around these curves. Okay, use my stiletto here to help me stay on track. Just take your time, keeping it flat as you go. Then you're sure to not get any puffering. Yeah, you hope. That's the hope. Okay, up here. Clips out the way. Okay. So, okay. So now, let me check. Not bad at all. Well, the important thing is I don't have any puckering. So now I'm just going to trim down this seam allowance. All right, got a little chunk right there. Okay. All right, we are getting to the finish here. Okay, so now we're going to fold down for our drop in. So we have to add some double-sided tape here. All right, so just like we did for the exterior, we're going to open the seam allowances on the side. Just grab, and then I'm just adding some double-sided tape right across the top. Okay, make sure this side is opened up and get that around. This magnet is pretty strong. It just keeps closing up. I guess that's what we want, huh? Okay. All right. Here we go. And we're going to fold this down to meet the line. Okay, so I like to start on the side, get that folded down, make sure the seams are matching up. work my way around. Okay. Put this side down. Okay. Here we go. Here, so now we have that. And woohoo! Looking good, looking good. Okay, so now we're ready. I believe we're ready to drop it in. I think so. Okay, so let's grab our exterior. So I'm gonna have my zipper go to the back. So it's the front of my bag here. So I want the zipper in the back. So I'm just gonna put that in there, just like that. It goes in just so wonderfully. And we're gonna match everything up. So I'm gonna start with these side seams and get those matched up. Get it clipped in place here. I'm gonna use these on the sides. Okay. And there. Now get the rest clipped. I love it when a pattern comes together, fits so nicely. You don't have to fiddle too much with it. I love it, love it, love it. My magnetic snap is gonna worry me when I top stitch. I already know, because I think I wish I really would have had a rivet one, but I'm gonna work around it. Just make sure, because I am not switching to a zipper foot to top stitch. It just never works out for me. So it's a little tight. Could have brought it down just a little bit. Maybe I used a bigger magnet than I should have. I didn't even pay attention to the size magnet I was supposed to be using.
Oh, Lord.
I did it. I didn't check. Maybe I should have used one of my smaller ones. And that's the problem, huh?
Too late now.
It's too late now. So it's too late, baby. Now it's too late. Okay. But I'll work it out. I will work it out. Okay. So fits great. Let's see how the lining feels inside. Very good. Very good. Okay. So now we're just going to top stitch. Make sure these handles are back out of the way. I'm going to, let's see, do I want to turn this? I'm trying to decide if I want to turn everything inside out and top stitch from the right side, or am I okay to top stitch from the inside?
The inside.
Inside. Jazzy, I promise you, if anything goes wrong,
It's not my fault.
it is your fault. Okay, so Jazzy said from the inside. So I'm going to do what Jazzy says. Okay. And I'm going to leave long tails. No back stitching. Okay. And here we go. Pray it all goes well. Make sure your connector pieces are out of the way as well. Don't sew over those. Okay, we do not want to do that. Okay. Whew. Push everything down, out of the way. Okay, let me see. This needs to come little bit. This part is a little bulky, so I'm gonna grab a piece here to put up under there. Make sure I'm going over this with the same thickness. Hopefully it looks okay. Whew. You're gonna see. How's that looking, Jazzy? How's that looking under there?
Oh, it looks good.
Uh-huh. I don't know if she's trustworthy. Tell me. Okay. I'm getting to where my magnet is, and I hope it doesn't get in my way and make me veer off. So I'm gonna just take my time and go one stitch at a time. Okay, that wasn't so bad. That wasn't so bad. Okay, again, keep these handles and the connector out of the way. You do not want to sew over those things, because then there will be tears. Okay. Okay, so whew. This is not too bad here. Okay. I'm getting to that thick side there, so I gotta use my little scrap again. Get up under there. Keep it even. Okay. As I get closer back to where I started, I'm going to pull that thread back. It's actually pulled to the front, to the outside, because my bobbin thread is on the exterior. So that's where I'm going to pull it to. And then, when I go across this, the female side of the snap, that's when I'm going to have a problem. Yes, that's when the problem's gonna come, because my presser foot is not gonna want to go past that. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna do, because I don't want to mess up my stitches. I'm going to cut this off here, and I'll tie that off. I'm gonna go past my magnetic snap. So just take this as a lesson. Like, I think I used a snap that's too big. Okay, so, and then I'm going to pick back up here, and then I'm going to switch to my zipper foot to finish, to go past the snap. There's always an answer. At least that's what I tell myself. Okay, so, okay. All right. So I just have more threads to cut off, but that's okay. I'd rather do that than mess up here. So I will switch to my my zipper foot, my little narrow foot here, and then that's going to help me go across where the magnetic snap is. So I won't fiddle around with you here. I will do that off camera while I tie off these threads. The instructions she gives for tying off. So when you tie off your threads, pull all your threads to one side. Mine is the, where am I? is the exterior side. Okay, so I have, for instance, I'm pulling this one through here. So I have 4 threads here, right? So what I like to do is, I like to get them all even. I take my needle. I just have a needle here and thread the needle with all 4, just like that. And then I go through, so there's a gap in the stitch right here, right, that I have to fill up. So I'm going to go through this hole here and come up right through the middle. Pull that open and come up through the middle, just like that. And if it feels a little tight, I have to use that. Okay. And then now I have that. There's the thread covers that space. And then I'll just tie these off and then add a little dab of glue in there. Trim them down and add a little dab of glue there. So that's the way I do it. And I'll do it with all of these threads I left. So I have to go back. I'm going to switch out my presser foot and go over where the snap is, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back after I top stitched where that magnetic snap was with my zipper foot. Went totally fine. So I think if you can't, just get a smaller magnetic snap, or use your zipper foot if you don't have a smaller one like I didn't. Okay, and then I went ahead and I installed my grommets because it was just a lot of noise and I didn't want to do that on camera, but I do want to show you. So I used this punch to make the holes, and then I used these tools to install the grommets. So the, let me grab one. So you have the grommet, you stick it there, you put the little ring, I have a ring here. Thought I had one. Let me grab one, hold on. Okay. You place the little ring, you put the fabric on top, with the hole in the fabric on top, and then you place that, and then you just basically hammer it and it all comes together. So this is what I used. Now, I did that because I didn't have gunmetal grommets in the size that I like to use on. I have one of these. Now this tool is really neat because you just put your grommets in there. You put one at the top, one at the bottom, and then you slide it in there, and then you press, and it makes the hole and installs the grommet all in one swoop. Okay, and I have 2 of these. I have different sizes. I think these can come loose too, and you can just add different the different sizes. This one is for 3/8 inch grommets, and I have one for 1/2 inch grommets. So I got it off of Amazon, so I'll link in the description. Like I said, I would have used that, but I only have bigger grommets and gunmetal, so I had to use the other tool and the hammer. So both work well, no problem. So now we're going to get ready to add our D-rings to our connectors. So we need a couple of rivets. I don't know if I need longer ones or if these will do. If I need longer ones, I'll grab those. But I think these may do. My vinyl's really not super thick, so we'll see. So I have my 3/4 inch D-rings. So you're going to slide one on. Okay. And then, okay, let me hope you can see this. Before I slide it on, take your rivet and push it through. And then remember the little hole we have here. We're going to push it all the way through. Yeah, I think I need a longer one. Let me grab longer rivets. Hold on. Hold on. I think I have some here. Yeah. I grabbed the longer ones just in case I needed them. And I do. Okay. So let's grab a couple of those. So I have the longer post as you want it to go. It's going through multiple layers. And then we're going to push that through. We have the hole on the inside here that we left. So it's coming through like that, right? And then you're going to slide your D-ring on. And then we're going to fold it. And we have the other hole for the rivet there. And we're going to press that on. That. And then put our cap on. Okay, just like that. So now we have our connector there for our shoulder strap. And I'll do the same thing for this side. So put your rivet in, find that little hole that we left, and push it through. Did I? Oh no. Gotta find it. Right? Just give me. Sometime you might have to. Okay, hold on one second. I might need to use my stiletto here to find the right spot. There we go. I don't know why the stiletto can go and find it, but the rivet could not. Okay, there we go. Now we're in. Okay, and then my D-ring. And then fold that over. And then, so there we have our connector. Now all I need to do is set those rivets. So I will grab my rivet press here. And we're gonna set that in place. And we're winding down here. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we are going to grab our, just make sure. She wants you to do the handles. Yes. So now see how our handles are all floppy? Okay. We want those to be in place here. So we're going to make a mark. Grab my smaller ruler here. We're going to make a mark 3 1/4 inches up, right? Yes, 3/4 inches down from the top edge of our bag. Okay, so 3/4 inches down. Okay, and then make a mark. And this is for our rivet placement. And we know where the center is because it's between the stitch lines. So we're going to mark just like that and do the same thing for this side and all sides. Okay. Just like that. Flip it over and we'll do the other two. Okay. Okay. Now, once we have those marks, we're going to punch the holes just through the strap. Yeah, just through our handles right now. So punch your holes. And now we're going to use that hole to mark where we're going to set our rivets through our bag. So just let it fall where it naturally will fall, and then make your mark. Same thing here. Flip it over, and then here. Okay, and then once you have your marks, which I don't see the white, but I do see the dot. Okay, once you have your marks there, then you can make the punch through the top of the bag here. Okay, and now we're going to put our rivets through. Yeah, I need the shorter ones are just fine for this. So I'm gonna put that through. And then there. Okay, and then this side here. Okay. Okay, and then I'm going to set those rivets. Then we'll grab our drawstring. Find the center of your drawstring. You hear my grandbaby. Grab your center of your drawstring, and we're going to bring that through the two in the back. Okay, I like my the folded edge to be at the top, and the where we put the two brought the two edges together. I like that to be at the bottom. So that's how I'm going to have mine. So just make sure it's even like that. Okay, even. And then we're just going to weave it in and out. So start with one end, we'll go in and out and in and out. And it's going to seem kind of short because we haven't pulled the drawstring yet. So just, it will fit. Okay. And then the same thing here. Go out, then we come in, and then out, then bring it in, and then out. And they should meet up right in the center front, like such. And we will, again, make sure they're even. So I just hold them together like this, give it a little tug till they're even, give it a little cinch. You see the shape of our bag coming together, okay? And then once I have that, like that, I'm gonna grab my drawstring cincher, which is right here, and make sure my straps are the way I like them, okay? And then we'll wrap the, which way do I want to wrap? So we'll wrap the drawstring cincher around the drawstring like such. Make sure it's not twisted. Okay. No, it's hard. So we're wrapping it around just like that. And then making sure that we're able to pull the drawstrings through nice and smooth without it being too tight. And when you have it right where you want it, where you feel like, okay, that's a good spot, is you can add a little clip right in the middle. Just add a clip, and then just make sure that your drawstring is able to pull through easily, okay? You don't want it too tight. And then when you have it, when you think, okay, that's good, then you can slide it off like that. And then I'm going to clip it here. And then you're going to make a mark. Try to center it 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch up. So just centering it. So 1/4 inch up for one side, make a mark. And then the other side. The other side, we'll make another mark there. Okay. So if that's the center, I don't know. Let me see how wide do I have it. About 1 3/4. So we wanted about, yeah, I was pretty close. So about right here and right there. Okay. That's where we want it. Okay. So we're going to punch the holes and then set the rivets on our cincher and then slide it back on. And then I'm using these zipper ends. I'm going to clip this back in place. I'm using these zipper ends. So I'm going to put one on each of my drawstring ends and get those installed. And when we come back, we'll see it all put together. Okay, so I'll be right back. Okay, everybody. So our Marzia bucket bag is done. Okay, so I went ahead and I did remember to secure my rivets on my handles. I bet some of y'all thought I forgot, but I did not. I did that. And I also got my cincher, the rivets on my cincher, and I put these little zipper ends on the end of my drawstring. So all that's left to do is to add your shoulder strap, and it's all done. So I love it. This is such a cute bag. I mean, it's so adorable. These pockets, side pockets, and the center, you could just stick your phone down in. You know, I'm a phone pocket person, so, oh yeah, look. I know it sticks out, but still, you know, I think I would carry it on the back. And then that way I'd just be able to just grab my phone out, you know. But anyway, it's really such a cute little bag. And I hope that you will make many like I plan to. And thank you once again for watching me here, Sewful Creations. I will link the pattern in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and come back and see me when I get another video, another 6 months. Because my family keeps me so busy. But no, I do try my hardest. But, you know, thanks for those that continue to keep coming back and watching and being patient and waiting for me. But this one I was so excited to do, and I'm glad we got it done. So enjoy your sewing days, everybody.